I've read a lot of Kasie West books. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm going to be doing another wrap-up slash guide to Kasie West, and the reason why I'm doing this video is because summer is almost here, and no matter if I'm in quarantine or in isolation or whatever we call it here on the internet, I want to live in summer and I want to feel summer and I want to feel happy and I want to read as much contemporary YA novels as possible. And since my queen Morgan Matson is currently taking this weird break where she's not writing a YA contemporary novel each year, I've decided to move on to the next queen that everybody seems to love on YouTube and also Bookstagram and also in the book community, Kasie West. Now, Kasie West has written a lot of YA novels in the past few years. I think her debut novel was back in like 2014 or maybe 16, and since then she has produced at least, if not once a book each year or 2 books each year through imprints like Scholastics or through HarperCollins Teens. And these books vary in different age ranges and it's very targeted to different audiences as well. Some are to younger audiences and some are to more of the older young adult audiences. What I can say from my experience of reading a bunch of Kasie West books and not finishing 2, which is her latest release, except for her 2 sci-fi fantasy YA books called Pivot Point and her other 2 latest releases called The Moment of Truth and Love, Life, and the List, I can give you a good understanding of what you can expect from Kasie West if you haven't read it already. And I also am trying to provide my thoughts on these books because I am clearly in the minority when it comes to Kasie West. Sometimes it's usually a hit or miss for me, and while I do appreciate her books, sometimes I just don't get the hype. Like, I don't understand why people really like her, but then I also kind of get it. So to start off this video, let's just talk about the fact that Kasie West is a machine when it comes to writing YA contemporary. She publishes so many books each year, and each of her books have different characters that follow different storylines that you haven't seen in her previous novels. So right off the bat, I can compliment her that she is very creative when it comes to her stories and her characters. They are not alike. You know, sometimes you get a wallflower character, sometimes you get a vibrant creative character, sometimes you get a sassy character, and sometimes you kind of get a character that's kind of wishy-washy and you don't really know what's going on, but the storyline kind of takes you to different places. And let's also talk about her plot lines. Her plot lines are usually very fun and very different, things that you normally don't see in YA contemporary. Instead of seeing them live their life in high school, you get characters that want to be a fashion designer. You get characters who work in floral shops. You see characters who won the lottery and suddenly has to deal with pressures of people using her for money. You get characters who love the lake and nature and who couldn't give 2 cents towards like going to school, and then like suddenly her teacher's like, you need to start a podcast for her media studies class or whatever, and suddenly she really wants to start a podcast. And it's just like different storylines that always keep you interested and that always makes you intrigued to pick up a Kasie West novel. And now, while these novels that follow plot lines that seem very light and very fluffy, and of course like the covers of the books look very light and very fluffy and like summer romances, they also have elements in there that are harder to talk about, such as like parents that are not very supportive all the time, parents that are not always there, or social issues such as the poor versus the rich, or you get characters that are stuck in ethical situations where they're stuck between 2 crossroads and, you know, they have to decide which way to approach it without like causing their lives to fall apart. And it's like very interesting, it's very dynamic, but at the same time there's a lot of books that I didn't like from Kasie West, and it's also because the books seemed like it dragged a bit, like it didn't feel like it needed to be that long. I felt like a lot of the topics were over explained, or I felt like the characters didn't really just mesh well with my personality. I felt like that they were being rude and flippant for no reason, and it just annoyed me a lot when I was reading it. And so usually Kasie West books are a hit or a miss for me. So what I realized is that a lot of Kasie West books are actually a lot of misses for me. There weren't that many hits. But what I realized is that her older books that she published in the first couple of years when she first started writing, those were a lot of hits for me, and they were strong 4 out of 5 stars, or they were strong 5 out of 5 stars. So let's start off with all the Kasie West novels that I did read, and we'll start off with ranking them from the lowest rating all the way to the highest rating. So the first book that I want to talk about that I gave 2 out of 5 stars, and it's my lowest rating for a Kasie West novel, is The Fill-In Boyfriend. And this book starts off a girl that has a fake relationship, and she gets dumped by her fake boyfriend right before she enters into her like homecoming dance, or into like her special high school dance, where she's been telling her friends that she has been dating this super cool popular guy forever, and nobody believed her. So this was her chance and her moment to shine, to show off her boyfriend. But then, you know, things fall apart and she's kind of left distressed in the parking lot until like she realizes that there's this cute older guy that is kind of watching her from the car. And like, when I say older guy, I don't mean like he's like 20 and like he's creeping on a 16-year-old. It's like, I think he's like 17, 18. Like he's only like 2 years apart, and he's like about to head into senior year of school or something. Turns out it's one of her new classmates' older brother, and he sees all this unfold and he feels bad for her. So he engages in a conversation with her, and they decide that they will go to the dance together, and he will play that role of pretending to be the boyfriend. And of course, like the sister sees, and the sister causes like this whole mess and this whole scene. But what happens is that basically the whole school already has opinions of our main female character and thinks that she is always wanting attention, she only cares about herself, and that she's not a good person. So the little sister is trying to get back at her. It's time for repayment, and it's time for her to do her older brother a favor. And the favor is that she has to pretend to be her older brother's girlfriend for a party that he's attending that is actually his ex-girlfriend's party, so he can make his ex-girlfriends jealous. And it's like that relationship where it's like kind of like a fake relationship that carries on into something more. What I didn't like about this book is that I felt like it dragged on a lot. I didn't really feel like it was very cute at all. There was like a lot of scenes that I didn't really care about. B, I just couldn't stand our main female character. I thought she was so materialistic. I thought she cared about way too many things that nobody should care about. She cared a lot about her social status. She cared a lot about what other people thought about her. And I just didn't vibe well with the characters. So that's why I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. So the second book that I read was Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss. Now this book is different because this book features our main female character who actually started off as a child actress on a soap opera, and she wants to launch herself into the next level of her career and fame in Hollywood. So she's been casted into this action-packed zombie movie with our teen heartthrob that would definitely pull in a lot of the sales and also give her the recognition she needs, because really everybody's going to be watching this movie with this like teen heartthrob that everybody's already been loving, and then everybody will also see her and she will actually be in a better position. So she's fully focused on creating this movie. So when her director tells her that she's lacking chemistry between her and the heartthrob, she decides to do a lot of things together in order for her to have a better on-screen chemistry with him. For her also, she's trying to balance her real life too as well, because she's still a high school student and people still see her and people actually don't really recognize her, which she's trying to change. And she also has a tutor who is her main male love interest, and it's about him trying to be the person that brings normalcy into his life, that always makes sure that she is doing her homework, that she's studying, and that she is being grounded in a world where she is not being grounded, and that she thinks that she's already someone worth talking about. This book also had like what people described in the reviews, a Scooby-Doo mystery thing going on. There's a lot of scenes where it seems like that her movie's being sabotaged and that people are trying to harm her and people are trying to hurt her, and we're trying to figure out like if there is someone that's actually trying to get like the worst of her. Like things are missing, the set keeps crashing on her, and she almost keeps getting injured in a lot of places in the book. I didn't like this one simply because of like the main plot line. Now, if you guys don't know me, I don't like Hollywood romances. I don't like rock star romances. I don't like any romances that have fame in them because it's just so materialistic. It's something that I can't relate to because I will never have that like social pressure from everybody looking at me and judging me and like having tabloids talk about me to ruin my relationships. Like it's just not relatable, so it's just not my cup of tea. I don't find it fun and I find it kind of dumb when I'm reading them. So obviously this book was not set up for me. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I thought there was a lot of scenes that were very materialistic, and if you don't like Hollywood romances, then definitely don't pick this one up. So the next book that I read from Kasie West is By Your Side. Now this book starts off with basically a girl getting locked in a library, and she realizes that the library is going to be closed for 2 days, and she's trying to figure out like what the freak she should do because her cell phone's not working, or she doesn't have battery, or she lost signal or something, and she's just like wondering like how she's going to get out of this sticky situation. And then she realizes that she's not alone, and there's actually another boy in the library with her, but it turns out that he actually has plans to stay in the library, and that he doesn't mind if he's being locked out because he's fully suited with like a sleeping bag and with food and with snacks and like with everything that he needs in his backpack. And it seems like that he's running away from a situation that is dangerous at home, and you start to realize that he's actually from a foster care system. He's in a foster home right now that is abusive, that has kicked him out, and he's just trying to live his life until he's 18 so that he's a fully grown adult and that he doesn't have to rely on the foster care system anymore. And it's about them getting to know each other for like the 2 days. And when I first started reading this book and the synopsis, I thought that this whole book would take place in 2 days, and it was just them getting to know each other and them falling in love. And it's not like that. They eventually get out, and then it's about like what happens afterwards that they get out, and it's about learning like the different dynamics in their lives that make them so different, and also learning about her own relationship status, because she kind of has like a wishy-washy relationship status where she has to make clear decisions on. And there's like a lot of like other dramatic flares that happen into the book that I don't want to discuss because it's got to be a spoiler. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it, but I also thought that it dragged on a lot. So eventually it just became a mediocre book. And while it started off super strong and super cute, and I was willing to give it like a 4 out of 5 stars, I dropped it down to a 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read is Listen to Your Heart. And now this character is a girl that really loves nature, that really loves summer, that really doesn't want to go back home into her house because she feels at peace when she's on the lake by her house, and she is like, you know, on the boats, and she's swimming, and she's just like having the great time in the summer under the sun. So when she has to go back to school, she's kind of dragging her feet, and she doesn't want to be locked in a classroom to learn all day. And so that's kind of like relatable, because who wants to be in a classroom? But basically she's in this media class, or she's in a class where she is being asked that she needs to be a host of a podcast, and all her classmates pair up in teams. They have to find a research topic where they can start a podcast on. And her podcast with this girl in her class is an advice columnist podcast, and basically people kind of call in and she has to give her advice. So she's a very timid, shy character that doesn't really have like anything to say most of the times because she wants to keep peace. But then suddenly when she's on the podcast, she realizes that this is the personality that nobody would want to listen to and that nobody would pay attention to. So she does her research, she listens to more and more podcasts. So she learns the way that people talk and how people are so witty and people have like great remarks. And you can slowly start to see her character develop into someone fierce, sassy, and somewhat funny. And it's great to see her grow with this confidence, but also with the show growing in more and more popularity, more and more problems are starting to happen, because suddenly she finds herself tangled up in this relationship mess where her best friend has a crush on this guy that she also has a crush on. So it's a love triangle story. If you guys don't like these stories, then definitely don't listen to this one. I thought this book was interesting. I thought it was super cute towards the end. To be honest, I was going to give this book a 2 out of 5 stars, but then towards the end when the relationship kind of like unfolded and you got to like hear more about it and you got to see more cuter scenes, I bumped it up to a 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and this book is called Lucky in Love. This is about a girl who's from a poor background. So her family doesn't have enough money to keep afloat, so she works really hard in school to make sure that she can get a scholarship so that she can go to a university, so that she can find a good job, so she can make money, so she could take care of her family. And she's very focused on school, and she doesn't want to think about boys at all, until one day during her study session, she goes to the convenience store and she buys a lottery ticket, and it's actually her birthday. Her family kind of like forgot her birthday, by the way. So she goes and buys a lottery ticket, and she realizes that she won and she hit the jackpot. So she has millions and millions and millions of dollars. She's a millionaire now, and she doesn't understand financial literacy. She doesn't understand anything. So she starts giving money away to like her family that has always loved her, and to her older brother, and then also like to her friends, and also like buying a bunch of things, and also spending a lot of money everywhere. But then she also realizes that with more money comes with more problems, starts realizing that people are actually using her for money, and she can't decide like who is being real and authentic to her, who's actually trying to be her friend, or who's actually trying to manipulate her. She also has a crush on a guy, and she ends up not telling him about the fact that she's a millionaire so that she can test the waters to see if he's actually being real and authentic. And while I enjoyed the story of this book, it was also very predictable. Like, with more money does come with more problems, and we kind of already knew that people would use her and abuse her, and I was just waiting for her to realize it herself. So I felt like the story was dragging a lot, and that's why I didn't really like this one as much. But still, it was an average cute book, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read from Kasie West is P.S. I Like You. And now this book, I started off going into it and thinking that I would absolutely hate it, because we have a girl who's basically Taylor Swift before she got famous. And she would basically write a lot of lyrics, and she will want to write songs, and she just wants to go to school for music, and she wants to develop her craft, which is like fine. But like, again, once I said I don't like fame, so I was like very nervous that she was gonna get famous halfway through, but she doesn't, so it's fine. And she just really likes music, and she writes lyrics, and she listens to a lot of indie pop that nobody listens to because it's like the quirky kind that nobody really knows. So she ends up starting writing lyrics, and then on the table, and somebody replies back with more lyrics to it. So then she realizes that whoever's sitting at her desk knows the same type of music that she listens to, and then she's like really intrigued by it because she like never met someone that listens to her music, and it's like that special connection that she wants to find. So they end up starting passing notes with each other and sliding notes underneath the desk, and then it's like this whole secret, like, who is this mysterious boy that keeps writing notes? And then also, outside of the writing notes relationship, she has an enemies to lovers trope tied in there as well, because she absolutely hates this guy that always tends to torment her, and that always tends to make fun of her and make her the butt of the joke. There's these two relationships happening where she's attracted to her bully, but then she's also attracted to the person who writes the notes, and she's trying to figure out like her emotions towards both of these two different people, and she's trying to figure out like who wrote the notes. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars because I really like the enemies to lovers aspect of it. I thought it was so cute and angsty in a way that I really wanted, that I've never seen in a long time in YA, and I just loved it. So I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. So the last book that I gave a 5 out of 5 stars to is The Distance Between Us, and this is also my last Kasie West book that I have read for this video. And The Distance Between Us is basically like a Pride and Prejudice kind of thing again, but not really. So we have a girl who is very poor, and she doesn't come from like a lavish background. And we have a boy that basically owns, like, his whole family owns like a giant part of the town. And her family, which is just a single parent mom, because her father walked out of their lives like when they were very young, and her mom actually like left her own family too as well because of like misunderstandings and also because of a fight. She basically only has her mom, and they together have a business, and it's a doll business where it's like authentic China dolls, handmade, handcrafted China dolls, and it's making no money, and nobody's really buying the dolls. And it's like getting really scary because there's a lot of like notices that are coming in the mail where it's saying that they have to pay, the deadlines are coming, or they're gonna be basically out of a house and out of a shop. Our main female character is stressing out about it and trying to figure out new inventive ways in order to drive up business, in order to make more money, but also realizing that her mom is dealing with like a ton of stress, and she's trying to like balance that one out. And then also for the fact that she used to hate the main male character who's really rich, but then she's starting to see that he's not that bad of a person, and they start becoming friends, and then they also start developing feelings with each other, but she's trying to hide it. Her mom will basically discourage the relationship. So it's like a secret relationship and forbidden relationship. And I really like this story because there was just like a lot of elements that played into it, and it was something that I'd never seen before, and I thought thought it was executed very well. I thought the ending was very cute as well. So that's why I ended up giving this one a 5 out of 5 stars. So that is it for all the Kasie West novels that I have read. So hopefully this video has acted as a good guide for you if you want to dive into Kasie West and you're not sure which book to start off of. Like I said before, all her books are very different and all her characters are very different. Sometimes the elements are the same, you know, rich versus poor, or misunderstandings and such as that to cause the issues. But regardless, I really enjoyed my experience of Kasie West. Felt like I was living my best summer, even though summer didn't happen yet, while I was listening to these audiobooks at work, and it just felt good. Like I felt like I cleansed my soul of like bad vibes. So I do recommend Kasie West in the end if you do like YA contemporaries, and I do recommend some of these books. So hopefully you guys have some recommendations and hopefully you guys can add some books to your TBR. Let me know in the comments down below which ones are your favorite Kasie West novels. I know that I'm usually very different from the majority and I usually end up liking books that people hate and hating books that people love. But until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.